Kingdom, I've always appreciated the value of a good education, and that includes the education of aspiring guitarists. That's why I'm pleased to endorse ShredMentor Rock Guitar Academy and its instructor, Jason Aaron Wood. Jason's approach to teaching technique is second to none, and I have no doubt that his skills and knowledge will benefit anyone who enrolls in his program. So whether you're a beginner or an experienced player, I encourage you to consider ShredMentor Rock Guitar Academy. It may just be the key to unlocking your full potential as a musician.
Hey, welcome back to ShredMentor Live. I'm your host, Jason Aaron Wood. You heard it from the Queen herself. There you go. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Hey, Darren, good to see you, man. It's like for this one, I've been all about arpeggios lately. Good. This is good. Now we're going to be dealing with sweep arpeggio shapes tonight, but not entirely just sweeping with those arpeggios. Remember that an arpeggio is purely the notes of a chord broken down and played one note at a time. And so we want to remember that's all it is. It's a note relationship. But sweep picking, sometimes, depending on how you approach it, can, of course, make that easier to do, faster and more smoothly after a great deal of work. So it gets easier after a whole bunch of hard work. So let us jump over to guitar practice tools. Mike, good to see you tonight, man. Good evening. Okay, so we're already looking at something here. I just jumped straight to it because I was setting it up. For once, I set up the tools for this episode ahead of time. And hold on one second. Need liquid refreshment. Okay, so what we're looking at tonight on the screen. Okay, now this is not in the guitar practice tools, but it is something I set up on the site just so I can use this as a visual for you tonight. Okay, what we're looking at tonight is just the layout. I just used E as a root note for this, but we have an E minor in the first diagram and an E major. Now it's just, these are the notes of the entire, all over the 6-string fretboard. I went with all 6 strings. In fact, I'm using my El Cheapo guitar tonight. Hopefully the lighting's a little dark tonight, to be honest, and don't know if it gets any, that's a little better. Yeah, let's try that. Hopefully it's not too washed out, but that I can actually see myself now, so let's call that better. Okay, so on the top, okay, we're looking at the minor arpeggio, the notes of an E minor arpeggio all over the entire neck, okay, and that's what we're gonna treat this as the blank slate. And below that we have an E major arpeggio all over the neck. So you'll notice as you look closely at these diagrams, the only thing different is the type of third all over the place. In the top one, you see a little flat symbol. It's really tiny, but it's right next to the 3, and you'll also notice that if you compare the location of note 3 in the top diagram to where it would be in the lower diagram, it's a half step lower. That's why it's flat, okay? Because that's really, when it comes to the arpeggios themselves, major and minor, the only thing difference is the third. I want you to be clear about that because we're kind of cooking with musical sounds tonight, okay? We are going to be dealing with a couple things. In fact, I have a special tool I'm going to be using tonight. I'm going to be drawing sloppily on the screen a whole lot. Okay, but I want to be clear, first of all, okay, every scale, every diatonic scale, and we'll see those down here, by the way, okay, all these things in purple here, there's many more scales than that, but these are just off the top of my head, these are the ones I use. And I use them to get different types of flavors. I find cooking analogies really good for this kind of thing because that's sort of what they are. Different scales will give you different types of ingredients that work together to give you a completely different experience, all right, as the listener. So every one of these as a diatonic scale, it means it has it's a 7-note formula, and there is a 1, that is a root note, there is a 2, there is a 3, this makes it major or minor sounding when it comes to the chord tone. Then you have something acting as a 4th, something acting as a 5th, and you have a 6th, and you have a 7th. That's it. Every diatonic scale has these. There you go, look right there, whoosh, all that. Every one of those scales has this in common, whether it's a flat 3, flat 2, whatever. They're going to be different relationships, interval relationships away from the root note, but that is going to be the thing that ties all of these together, okay? And one more important thing, as you can see in these diagrams, we already have 2 main formulas that pretty much occupy these relationships. So what we're really going to be doing is introducing these other 4 notes, 2, 3, 4, and 6. And so the idea behind the arpeggio framework is that we're going to start with essentially, arpeggio shapes. So if you have any sweep picking experience already under your belt, whether the small, oops, I'm going to kill that speaker. I knew I forgot something. You should be able to hear me still. All right. Maybe you know this one, or maybe however you do it, right? These are, these little shapes are in here, all right? So the first one I did here, I'm going to just draw paths. Hopefully that green is visible enough here, all right? But that's basically what I did. It was 5, down to 3, down to 1, down to 5. That's the small sweep. If you want to keep going, you can go here, here, and here. This is another really common pattern. 5 strings worth, all right? You start here, and you end here. Sooner, I'm probably going to have to just clear this here, but I'll leave as much of the writing on the screen as possible. And I'm hoping you guys can, please let me know in the chat that you can actually see this, so I don't keep spending your time writing this out, but hopefully you can actually see that right there in the screen share. So some stuff I know doesn't show up in it, so please let me know in the chat that you can actually see what I'm drawing on it. Someone please. Anyway, I'll assume you do. But yeah, so you got your all right, and that is a pretty common formula because you basically, note layout wise, you have 2 notes here, 1, 1, 1, and then 2 notes. Mike, good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Darren, also. Great. All right, so that's good. I'm glad that this tool works because now I can use this in the future as well. All right, so you got... Okay, so once you have that sorted out, okay, you can kind of choose what kind of scale you want to hint at. Sorry, yeah, it's just going to follow me down the screen, but anyway, whatever. I want to point your attention to these different types of scales, okay? So I'm going to stick with the most 2 obvious here, major and minor. Okay, let's just get rid of that, and I'll start again now. Now I'm just going to use that same shape I just did, okay? And in fact, I'm going to just move the whole thing up an octave, 5 up to 1, up to 3, up to 5. I'm going to do this just a little higher because I'm going to do some stretches in this. So I'm going to make this, I didn't actually even include this chord type in here. I should have, but I forgot to. But anyway, you can also do, you can start with your triad, 1, 3, and 5, and you can add one of those other. Remember, 2, 3, so 2, 4, 6, and 7 are the notes that we're not including. There are 7ths, we can do that too, but we can basically just add those notes in to the existing 1, 3, 5 formula, and we can get additional flavors, lots of them, because if we leave the 2, 4, 6, and 7 sort of generic, not specifying whether it's a perfect 4th or a sharp 4th or a major 2nd, minor 2nd, or a major 6th or minor 6th, or a major 7 or minor 7. That's a lot of different variations you can throw in just against one single kind of triad. So we can do minor add 9. 9 is 2, 11 is 4, okay? Which is just part of the naming, but remember, you really only have 7, so I want to keep this as manageable as possible. And the way I do it in my own head is, I know that a 9 is a 2, but I don't think about it as a 9 because that treats it like it's it's like an extra label. And that, yes, that's how the naming works, but it's much easier to just remember that there's only 7 ingredients, and I have 1, 3, and 5 already. So an add 9 is 1, 2, 3, and 5. So I'm going to add a 2 into this minor scale. In the natural minor or Aeolian scale, that 2 would be right here. Okay, and so I can start here at 5, go up here. Instead of going straight to 3, I'll take a detour down here to 2, then to 3, then to 5. All right, sorry, really hard to draw with a mouse, but I think you get the idea. So instead of, I can go right? So that's a fun one. I think it adds a lot to, to the flavor of, that's fine, but it's a little bit like bare bones. It's, it needs a little extra flavor. And so every extra note that you add is going to add a certain kind of emotional depth, a certain specific flavor of emotional depth. So that becomes a minor add 9. So that's fun. Let's and you know what's cool about it too is you really only need to add this extra note like one time anywhere in the overall arpeggio. So I can you know, continually add this kind of thing. I'll go from the root note here on the 5th string. Normally it would be right, but now, oops. All right, so that's a minor add 9 also. I just have 1 3 5 1 3 5 1 3 5, but as long as there is a 2 in there, now it's a minor add 9. I could try a little something different here, okay? And I'm gonna. This isn't a flavor I like as much, but it's a unique flavor for sure. I'm gonna do a flat 2, which is gonna be a lot harder to play, which is definitely important. So I'm gonna start at 1. I'm going to go to 5, I'm going to go to 1, but I'm going to go all the way down here. From the, this is my middle finger I'm going to be playing that note with, by the way. And then I'm going to go all the way over here, jump over here a whole step, and then jump 2 whole steps there. So the finger is going to be a little crazy once I get up there. Weird flavor. Probably not something I'd want to use a lot, but that's theoretically the other option for 9 if I'm using you know, so I like to yeah, if I'm using a minor arpeggio and want to add some kind of a ninth, that's basically the ninth you would get with Phrygian. Okay, so if you're playing that on A, all right, so if I was in the key of A minor, you know, that's basically if I wanted to purely stay in key but add what this is, I don't know, I guess add flat 9. I don't really ever hear that. I don't know how that would work naming wise, but formula wise, not every single note has a major second from its root. So, you know, there's a couple of half steps in every key automatically. Literally a couple, there's 2 from A to B, or sorry, from B to C and from E to F in the natural notes alone. That's one scale. In the A minor scale, it happens on notes 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. So there's going to be 2 places where your second isn't a whole step like it would be in a minor add 9. And so I don't know what that would be called. I frankly don't give a shit what that would be called, but we know how to get there. Okay, so it's just about like where would I be in the scale? What is the 2 from this note? Okay, so that's why I put chord types down here. Basically, I only just did triad, 3-note chords, triads. Getting a little, I suppose a sus2 and a sus4 and a flat 5 are all triads essentially. Might be a little flexy with that. The classic 4 are major, minor, diminished, and augmented. But flat 5 is just a major with a flattened 5. You know, so that seems like a triad to me. And then you also have, I mean, if diminished is okay to be a triad because it has a flat 5, then sure. Anyway, not to split hairs about it, but just basic triads. And then I got into the 4-note chords, which are all 7ths, which I guess an add 9 is another 4-note chord, but I just did 7ths here. If you add note 7 into your 1 3 5, it's called a 7. So we already have a whole bunch of these kind of fleshed out for us here too. But you can add an 11, which is 4, and you can just call it a 6, and it's a 6 chord. So there's different kinds. You can have a major 6 and a minor 6, and you can add that onto your minor arpeggio or your major arpeggio too. Okay. And as I said earlier, remember that arpeggios are not exclusively or in any way, you know, required to be tied to sweep picking. One is a technique, one is just a note relationship. So I do want to, you know, remind you of that. Not everything we do tonight is going to be like that. And just for fun and to keep that alive as an idea, I have my ebow here, just so that we're definitely not going to be sweeping with that. Right, so I'm going to go with my E here. That's still a minor add 9. Okay, I can play these anywhere. I'll probably whip that out again toward the end of the thing, but you get the idea. You can just do it all in one string. Arpeggios are just note patterns that get you away from just playing all the notes that are right next to each other, because that starts to become more like reciting a list of the notes that are in the key rather than purposely selecting notes with varying interval relationships to each other throughout your melody. So this can do a lot of stuff too. It's right. It's what's nice. I'll get into more examples here, but I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of where we're going with this. But this, if you got my email, you've heard what I'm about to say. But yeah, this can fling the doors wide open on your creativity, because now you rather than just being, well, first of all, I guess I'll get to the next thing. It'll spice up your arpeggio playing a lot, because now you're not stuck with those same, the same shapes everybody's using, but you can use them as, well, as the word framework. That's why I use it. To me, it's like a framework or like a foundation. You build on it like a foundation, and you can create new things, and you can add those notes in however many times you want throughout the octaves. You just have to account for it and then work, adapt your technique appropriately. Additionally, by doing this, just by memorizing some sweep shapes and kind of making sure you're aware of which note as you go through it, your root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root, or fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, or start from the third for the first inversion, which is third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third. By paying attention to like where you are and which scale tone you're actually playing at, or chord tone you're playing as you go through that arpeggio, it's going to also help you to really just strengthen your fretboard knowledge overall, because then you're also going to be like, oh, so if I'm if I'm mode 1 and the 2 is a whole step higher than the root, so all I need is to find the root note, play the note a whole step above that, as well as when I as the other root, third, and fifth instances throughout the thing. So I'll take that last one I just did, right? So root is third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third. All right, that's the first inversion. The root inversion starts at the root, so the next note up, the third, is the first inversion. Third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third. The second inversion, which would be the next note up in the chord, which is the fifth. So fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth. All right, so just being aware of that and starting with this, and then adding in those additional however many notes you want, it's going to strengthen your fretboard knowledge a lot. And finally, of course, it's also going to improve your melody writing a lot, especially if so far you've been in the habit of just kind of using your sweep arpeggios sort of wholesale. Just back to the bridge pickup for that. Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with doing that once in a while, but I think it's important to spice it up a little bit. And tonight, what I'm showing you is a great way to do it, because you already have the shapes, or if not, hopefully you've got my you know what, I didn't put I'm going to grab the other download in here. Hold on one second here. I'm going to add this to the chat. Did you design this, Jason? It's an outstanding way to run my vocabulary. Yes, I did. This is something that I never heard anybody talk about, but I realized, you know what? So what I was about to get to, too, is that basically you just look at the arpeggio and, okay, where are the surrounding scale tones now? It's something it occurred to me maybe 10-ish years ago while dealing with this. Like, you know what? Let's just deal with sweep picking, but let's add some other notes in. And I do this all the time. I do riffs and licks and stuff all the time. Let me see. Where do I have... There we go. ShredMentor pages. Damn. 21 sweep shapes. I'm going to take a quick guess here, but hold on one second. I want to make sure I get this. Let's see. ShredMentor.l pages. Not shred now. Let's do 21 sweep shapes every guitar. There it is. Good. I'm going to copy this. You should grab this too, because this, if you don't already have it, you should. And so let's just throw that in the chat right now so you get this. Grab that. It's free. It's 21 different sweep shapes. So the ones I'm covering tonight I'm just scratching the surface. But that's what this leads to right here. Oh, restream. If you see that, that's me. It's okay. It's not just some spammer. If you've watched this show before, you know I kick their asses out quickly. But tonight I'm not even streaming to Twitch, because that's where they all come from, it seems. So we probably won't even run into that. But yeah, restream. That's me. That's what I use to broadcast to Facebook and to YouTube and to, what the hell else am I? Twitter. Why am I on time? I'm broadcasting to Twitter. Oh well. Somebody's got to break up the political turmoil on that site. All right. So anyway, getting back to the page, okay? And I made this page solely for this live stream. This is not anywhere where anybody can get to it. It's very singular of purpose here. Okay, so we've got these, you know, what's kind of neat here is, I mean, you can start from anywhere when you have a diagram of this, you know, when you have just the chord tones here, you can kind of start to connect them however you want. So let's start to do that. Okay, I did everything here with E, and I think, by the way, it's a really good thing if you have access to guitar practice tools. Then I would definitely recommend doing this stuff with a drone going in the background. So like a full orchestra sustained drone. I'll come back to that in a moment. And all right, so what's kind of cool, I'll do some more with this E minor arpeggio. In fact, there's a really cool shape I love to use, and this is an Andy James shape. It's got a cool slide in it. I'm just going to show what the shape is first. Okay, first finger, pinky, ring finger, ring finger. Okay, then you go to your first finger over here, but you slide with that first finger. So I'm going to kind of throw a little arrow in there just to kind of indicate that. Now your first finger's here, and you do what would have been this shape here. Okay, and that is the whole shape, right? So all together it goes really nice shape. I love doing this. I'm doing it more and more lately, and essentially as a formula you could do so if you want to do the major shape. It works pretty much the same. Pinky there. Here I would use the middle finger. Go to here, and that is where you slide. The slide is always on the third string, and then you just do the major version. All right, so it'll be so same deal. It's 9 notes total, which is also nice because it's 8 notes up and 8 notes back. It's a 16 beat phrase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Major or minor, doesn't matter as long as you follow the note layout. 2 notes on the bottom. 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's the note layout. That's how you get 9. Note layout is another ShredMentor exclusive thing. I've never heard anybody talk about it, but I don't know why, because it's really, really something that defines what your technique is going to be and how this pattern is going to work. So anyway, this design opens up so many avenues and an easy way to understand the concept. Making your own arpeggios. Exactly. And that's what I do. I used to hate the idea of learning chords, and I know chords are a little bit of a different thing, but to me I was kind of closed off to it as a young teenager early on. And I had one guitar teacher that actually got through to me and really sold me on the idea, and this is what we're kind of talking about now, but he's like, oh, you don't have to learn chords. You can make your own if you know how. 1, 3, 5, you know. And he started to explain to me how chord construction works. This is what we're talking about right now. And it's totally what we're working on. I just have applied the same thing to the arpeggios themselves. So, you know, because to me, I wanted to play metal, and that's it. And I didn't care. And to me, like, learning chords was like strumming an acoustic around the campfire. And I mean, if that's what you want to do, you're welcome to it. That's nothing wrong with it. But I was really closed off to that, and I associated it to sort of styles of music I wanted nothing to do with as a kid. And so I really needed to be sold on it, and this was the perfect way. But that's what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to make cool sounds that were in fact in my head. So in a way, this kind of thinking is how I'm always thinking. Because I'm, you know, all the times I've talked about like harmonizing to a backing track and playing the right notes at the right time and stuff. Like, everything you play is always part of the chord in a way, unless you're truly playing like solo, like as in the only instrument playing at all. But if you're, you know, when you're soloing over a backing track, over a chord progression, your notes kind of, in order to lock in and sound like they've resolved to the melody, to the chord progression, I mean, they need to be the notes that are in the chord. So you have to be paying attention. There's never really a time that you're not playing in the chord. So everything is arpeggio based in a sense. All right, so you can take something like, all right, so anyway, going back to this here, okay? We've got our minor, just pure minor triad. So what if I want to add a little something right here? 4. I'm going to add a sharp 4, all right? So just to give you an idea, root, 3rd, 5th, I'm going to add this in. that's a lot of fun. Now it's going to change the length of my phrase a little bit. It was 9 notes. Now it's going to be 10 up and down, which means that it's actually going to be 9 notes up and 9 notes back. So it's probably going to be a little more triplet friendly. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. So now I could also add that note in a different octave. It'll be a lot harder to play probably, but let's see. Right there. It's always the note a half step below the 5 is your sharp 4. If you're ever wondering, like, how do I know if it's a sharp 4 or a flat 5th? If you have a perfect 4, then it's a flat 5th. If you have a perfect 5th, it's a sharp 4. It's which one do you actually have that's a perfect one? That's what the other one is. That's how you can tell, because that can get a little confusing. And when you're dealing with the blues scale, where there's a perfect 4th, a blues note, and a perfect 5th, call it what you want, either one. So anyway, yeah. So anyway. Right. So as you can see, throwing that note just anywhere sometimes can make it a lot harder. It doesn't flow as easy, and you have to work at that to get the rhythm right. Not saying you can't play it. Eventually, with enough work in that particular area, if that's what I want it to sound like, I just need to make it flow so that it still sounds like 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. It's very hard to say. Marty Friedman style. Sounds like it. Yeah, probably. It's been a little... I could definitely picture Marty Friedman playing something like that from my very limited, basically, Rust in Peace and Countdown to Extinction. No, sorry. I got tunnel vision when it comes to certain bands, and that's, to me, that's the whole Megadeth worth checking out. No offense to people, fans of all the rest of Megadeth. They've had nothing but amazing guitarists, but yeah, the Marty Friedman era is the time that I pay attention to, and I can definitely picture that. I haven't listened to his playing in so long, but yeah, I could. Seems like something he'd play. Now, there's one other one that I didn't play in there, which is the middle octave. I just kind of went right from the high octave. Right here, that's a 5th too, so I could go like. Getting it to play nice here. I don't have to go all the way up, by the way. I could just, insert it right back there and just, go root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, 4th, 5th, and just come right back, So back down, back up, So yeah, I could just do that. Yeah, I could just straight up string skip too, just straight there, and then here, and there too. So, fuck the 2nd string. Doesn't have to be in there. It stops being a sweep, but once again, I'm not, I think I've made it very clear that being able to sweep isn't really my highest priority here. I'm interested in what the melody is. So as long as I can make it happen, I'll stop sweeping midway in. As long as I've accounted for where I'm going to get to the notes and which therefore my fingers can get to them, that's probably fine. So yeah, but let's see. That's definitely triplet friendly. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 beats of triplets. 1, 2, 3. 3 beats of triplets up and 3 on the way back. So yeah, playable. Needs a little work on my end here, but so anyway, I hope that diagram, that sloppy ass diagram, made sense there. Again, really, really hard to draw cleanly with this. If the green is not working for you guys, by the way, just let me know. I'm sure I can. You know what? Maybe not. Print drawing. Let's see. Save drawing. No, I don't want any of that. Is that the controls? Yeah, okay, yeah, I've been taking that off the screen. Let's see what colors I got here. Let's try like a red. That might be good. Let's see what happens. Controls be gone. Okay, I'm going to try it with red. Maybe it's a little easier. I was just noticing, like, I can't see that well, so I've got the highest resolution of it that you're going to get. Okay, so that was a sharp 4. That's something that you find in Hungarian minor. It's also something that relationship is something you would also find in double harmonic major, which is just the 5th mode of Hungarian minor, by the way. So some of these scales are just other modes of each other. They're just modes of each other in a lot of cases. So like major is mode 1, where Lydian would be mode 4 and Mixolydian would be mode 5. Okay, same thing with minor, Dorian, and Phrygian. Minor would be mode 1, Dorian is mode 4, and Phrygian is mode 5 from a minor perspective. In the other case, so these are modes of each other. Minor is a mode of major. Major is a mode of minor. They're all modes of each other, these first 6. And I threw Locrian in here as the redheaded stepchild because it doesn't actually have a major or a minor arpeggio type. It actually has a diminished triad associated to it. So I just kind of pushed that off to the side. And I didn't really make diagrams. Fuchsia. I'll do it. Sure. And you know what? It should be actually pretty... should be pretty. No, it should be pretty pretty visible too. So let's see. Yeah, let's go with something like that. How's that? All right. So yeah, one of my favorites to add is the flat 6. Oh, sorry. No, we're going with fuchsia now, man. Sorry. All right, so whatever. As long as it shows up on the screen, doesn't matter to me. Blood. Okay, we'll go with that. So, okay, I really love the flat 6. Okay, and this is almost just like when I added the 4 here, right? The thing is, I'm just not going to have the 4 there. I'm going to add the note on the other side of the 5, which is that one. So we'll go right back through there, that same path. I'll do the whole slidey thing here, and that, and that, right? And again, this is the sliding area. That's the sliding board. Okay, so I'm going to add, it's still going to be 9 because I know that the whole thing is at, well, 9 notes up and 9 notes back, so triplet-y stuff, because it was 9 before, now it's 10. So this is tying into what I talked about last week, by the way, rhythm, everything, rhythmic numbers. What is the likely accenting pattern for this if it's 9 notes up and 9 notes back? Well, 3 times 3 is 9. I'm probably just going to go with it rather than beat myself up because 18 in the end. I guess I could do it like sextuplets, but let's just do triplets. Screw that. So that's a great one. I love the flat 6. In fact, you know what? I think the flat 6 is also fantastic in a major arpeggio. Okay, well, that's a shitty looking 6 if ever I saw one. I read or heard somewhere that if you do all your cursing after 30 seconds into the YouTube video, that they won't like demonetize you. So if I'm just letting it rip tonight, that's why. And I'm not being monetized at all anyway. So who gives a shit? I'm here to prepare you for the real world of the music industry, and you're going to hear these words a lot. So there, that's my justification. Okay, so this is a fun one too. This has got this sort of magical Lord of the Rings kind of thing because Howard Shore used this in the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, but you know he didn't sweep it. But you know, nope. And you can, right? I'm just no. Right? So that's what happens if you throw a flat 6 on top of a major arpeggio. It's this really interesting sounding kind of magical, again, very Lord of the Rings kind of sound. Not that that musical sound didn't exist before. It's just it's a major minor 6th. I think that's what it would be called, because you have a major triad. And so if you call something a sixth, by the way, it automatically assumes that it's a major sixth interval in relation to the root. So if you call it a minor sixth, you go play in a minor sixth, it's, even though the minor scale has the interval called a minor sixth, the minor part, the word minor, only deals with the chord, the 1, 3, 5 part. So all you're getting out of that is a minor third, and your sixth is still going to be major. So you actually have to call it a minor flat sixth, because that, otherwise you get it's very Dorian kind of sound. It's a different sound, but if you're going for that darker, it's a minor flat sixth. So you do have to specify, you have to minorize your six in the naming of it too, because if you just call it a minor six, it's not what it sounds like it means. Six chord automatically just means major six on top of your triad. 6 and 7 kind of work that way in naming, by the way. And I really hate dealing with the naming side of this, because it's all established, but it's not actually consistent or intuitive, so it's a pain in the ass. For 6s and 7s, you can just call it a 6 or 7 chord, and you have your 1, 3, 5 and your 6, or 1, 3, 5 and your 7. But if you want to go add a 2 or a 4 in there, now you got to call it an add. You can't even call it an add 2 or an add 4. It's an add 9 or add 11. So it's just inconsistent bullshit, and you know, it is what it is. But add flat 13, yeah, I know, and I mean, it's essentially, that's what you'd get with an add flat 13, if that was what we wanted to call it. I almost am kind of more of a fan of the add 9, 11, and 13 than I am these two over here and these two over, you know, add 9 and add 11, but 6 and 7 are fine. They're all in the first octave, so I mean, I get why we call it a 7, because it's 1, 3, 5, 7. It's just the next third you'd get to. But then, you know, if you call it if you call it, by the way, a ninth, it means every single note of the triad and the 7th. You know, so the 7th has to be in there, by the way, if you're calling it just a pure 9th or an 11th. So that's pure, like, just every third. So if you call it a 13th, all right, there was a pattern I started in. Let me see if I can remember what it was. It was a that's from B major. This is how it works out from Mixolydian, but root 3rd, 5th, flat 7, not major 9. Let's see. Just a regular 11. That would be your just 13th, and then the 15th is actually where it starts over. So I mean, yeah. So that is an actual 13th, because all of your notes are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 1. And I was working on those a couple weeks ago, then forgot all about them. So the first one I started with is the only one I still remember. I don't really use that. It's a little too jazzy for what I'm trying to do. But anyway, just jazz is the basis of how my view of theory works, though, which is, you know, not really so much about rules. Just like, if you do this, you get this result. So it's more, you know, recipe-like. Yeah, their only pianists demand all the stack thirds. I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, Holdsworth type folks. Actually, Holdsworth is in another dimension altogether, but it's a jazz thing. So jazz guitarists will call it a full 11 chords, for example, if the 7th is included. Okay. Yes, and I know that also at a certain point, yeah, if the 7th is included. Okay, right. So, and I know that there is a thing with guitar in particular that, I mean, with arpeggios we can pull it off, but like if you're actually playing it as a chord, I don't see 7 notes to play here, and I don't see 7 fingers with which to play them. So if I want to get moving around in a chord progression, it's going to get a little tough playing the entire scale as a chord. So same as the horns, I believe. Yeah. I'm actually, what do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean, Mike, as far as the horns, but I do know that playing chords on that, you're going to need at least 7 horns to be able to pull that off. So yeah, there's going to be a certain point, you know, where you're not able to actually play all of them. And by the way, the first note to go, 5th. The 5th is disposable, and as much as we rely on it in metal because it's so important. That note is so related to the root note that it's actually the first one to go, because all it's doing is intensifying the root note, and the other ones are actually adding flavor. So that one is not adding, it's adding the least amount of flavor to the chord, so you can drop the fifth first. That said, if you're trying to, play arpeggios like what we're talking about here tonight, you can drop any note you want if it's going to make it more playable. I didn't exactly drop the fifth here when I did my string skip earlier here, but let me clear this out here. Okay, so anyway, yeah, when I did that, that jump from here straight over to here, I just bypassed. I didn't really skip the fifth. I just jumped from it, but I could do that. I could just get rid of that. Let's just illustrate one possibility here. I'm going to add my sharp 4 back in right there. So when I jump from 1, I'm only going to go to 4 and screw the 5 and go to 3. I don't know how long this phrase is going to be, but whatever. No. Anyway, just trying to play around with some ideas. You could skip the 5. It just depends on what sound you want to make. But anyway, I just wanted to okay, you're referring to a horn section played on a guitar like Frank, like with the stacked thirds. Okay, I see. Anyway, yeah, just trying some stuff here, but we can now move on to some other things. So what have we not done? Sevenths. I have a whole list of them right here. All right, so here's the, oh yeah, good, 20 minutes up. Plenty of time to talk about this. Okay, so this isn't really different from what we've talked about, but I think sevenths being so common, and they are still rock and metal friendly here. We're not getting into jazz territory exclusively. Sevenths are super common in jazz, but they're not as exclusive to jazz types of music as the, sevens are worth looking at because you're going to run into them. Okay, and so what's not, and it's just continue the third one more time. A lot of the time with these shapes that we're dealing with, okay, especially these, like so, if I'll do a minor 7 first because I'm, dealing with minor primarily. Typically, you'd go all the way up here to the 1, okay, but I mean, I already have a root note and another root note. So I really don't need another root note. It's, whoa. All right, let's just go forward there. What I could do instead is just go up here and add the minor 7 right there. Okay, and I can just replace one of my root notes very easily with it. So thinking about how you modify your existing triad, again, if you're doing the longer the sweep, the more likely you're already hitting a certain note multiple times, and then you can swap that one out very quickly. You could swap a couple of them out too. I don't really need the 1 here either. I could do the 7 there too. All right, so real quick, I'll draw that again. Your 1, 3, 5, and I'm just going to pick it up from the 3 here. And I'm just going to do the 7 here, and I'm just going to draw it in here, and we're going to go back and forth between either the 7 or the 1 on that 3rd string. That's the 7th fret or 9th fret, and I'm either going to go rolling with my ring finger from 5 to 1, or I will skip over my 1st string, and it's going to be sort of a mixture. The minor 7 arpeggio essentially is kind of 1, 3, 5, and then I'll just do it on this string that doesn't have any notes on it. All right, that's your flat 7. From here, from 1 to 3 to 5, that is minor, which is a lowercase m. However, I'll just do this here, the other string. That is a major triad. So it's sort of a blend of both of them. It contains both of them. From the 1, 3, 5, that is a minor arpeggio. From 3 to 5 to 7, that exclusively by itself is actually a major arpeggio. So you have a little bit of a happier sound in it, even though it's called a minor 7. You have, all right, that's where I omit that middle root note here on the 3rd string. I'm going to now go back and reintroduce it, and you'll hear it take on a little bit of a more minor sound, but still, it's not as dark as just plain minor. Oops, getting ahead of myself. That was a pure mistake. Now, a couple of times, by mistake though, I added the wrong kind of 7, which would be the major 7. That is an actual type of chord. I just wasn't actually trying to play it, but that would be the, where is it? Minor, major 7 right there, okay? That could be a confusing named one, but it's, okay, it's minor, that is root 3rd, 5th, and it has a major 7. So in a way, it actually has, let's just look at it on the 1st string. Root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, major 7. So when you look at what, you still have a minor triad here, from 1 to 5, but 3, 5, and 7 are actually augmented, which is simple as a plus. And there, these 3 are minor, okay, which gives it a really odd sound. So this time it'll be on purpose when I hit that. Now this is a sound you've probably made a lot of times while practicing the regular minor one, just by not stretching far enough to actually accidentally hitting that is, I think we've all done that. Unless you just haven't worked on your sweep arpeggios yet, you've probably done that hundreds of times by accident, and that's fine. But do know that not only is it a wrong note if you're trying to hit the other one, but it's actually its own kind of chord. Because one of the really important things, and I think also is a part of this whole mindset here, is that not only can you make your own chords, but like if you're playing a note that's not in the chord, now it is. Because the chord is not just what that person over there on one instrument is playing, it's what every musician in earshot is playing. So the whole band plus your note, new chord, you know. So it's an E, a G, and a B, which is what, you know, an E minor is. And I throw a, you know, I don't know, an F in there. Let's see, how might I do that? Let's see. In the bass this time, just because I could get to it, you know. I could also, you know, it's going to sound weird, but with context, it actually might work, you know. You know, so different other notes I can sort of introduce along the way to sort of reconcile the weird outside note. But if I go playing an F during an E minor chord, it's just an, it's got a, I don't know, add flat 9, something like that, you know, a minor add flat 9. I'm not sure if that's the name for it, but essentially that's what I'm doing. It's in the chord now because they're all audible, and it's creating a new, quite dissonant sound, not automatically bad. Actually, you know, let's see now. I like it better in major format. That's more of an F major. F. Add flat. Yeah, add sharp 11. No 5. That's, yeah. So there's your major 7. F major 7. Add sharp 11. No 5. All right. So root 3rd, 5th. I'm getting rid of the 5th, but I am adding in the sharp 4 right below it. And this is already, so this is the F. Replacing the upper root note with the 7, the half step below it. Here's the 5, replacing that with the sharp 11, which is the sharp 4. And I have a root, a major 3rd, sharp 11, with a sharp 4th, and the major 7. I use the shit out of this one. This is a lot of fun, so especially because it resolves very nicely. It's very flamenco-esque kind of. So there was actually a, sorry, I hope you can hear the clean guitar. I just don't want to have it all messy on the, yeah, I guess you can kind of do that. But I've used this in so many things. There's a song called Hiding from Reality on my old Sonoof Iconoclast album. I was tuned to C sharp for it, but it was basically a... Gotta be able to hear that though. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. I love that kind of chord, but understanding how to make the sounds you want, I think, comes first. What you call it, frankly, as long as you know what goes into it and how to get there from the basic triad, what to modify in your triad to get to it, frankly, I don't think it matters to ever know the name unless you really have to communicate that to someone else. You can tell them what the notes are, and if they have the music theory knowledge, then they can figure it out themselves, possibly. Some people in the world might appreciate you knowing the name of it and telling it to them, but I'm going to be honest. I mean, with so many people that I have worked with since I entered the music industry 22 years ago, most of them don't know this stuff. And to non-guitarists in particular, the word modes brings up some medieval shit. that's like no one uses it anymore except guitarists, and so they don't see the use in it, and it's not, you know, I mean, not everybody of all other instruments, but we guitarists have a little bit of a reputation we might not be aware of with all the other instrumentalists for using modes. So it's not something that it's not a language everyone even speaks anyway, is the point, you know, not to get too sidetracked there. But yeah, I mean, if you talk too correctly about your theory, it's like, you know, you might be really fluent in some language, but if you don't know anybody else that's also fluent in that language, good luck having a conversation. You might as well do what I do and break it down into layman's terms and make it as plain English as possible, because if you know, it only helps if the other person understands what the hell you're talking about. All right, so I hope that I was able to make it, you know, kind of clear what we're talking about here. What I kind of really like to do too, all right, I'm going to just kind of finish off with one other idea here, which is to take these types of scales, and I will throw the drone in for this next part because I think it's nice to have some context. But before I do, I'll start the diagram up. Okay, I'm going to go with major for the end of this. Okay, I really like to kind of just take the arpeggio and, again, using the framework, like two things. First of all, flesh out where are the other notes. I'm going to deal with the scale. To me, I always knew it as the Hindu scale because that's how it's listed in the Guitar Grimoire, which was my first and main guitar scales book, and it is common in, you know, traditional Hindu music, so I have no problem with it being called that. I've also heard it referred to as Mixolydian flat 6. Now Mixolydian is major with a flat 7 already, so you also flat the 6. So what I'm going to be doing here is just putting the notes in just so you can kind of see where the rest of them are. I'm starting from this root note, by the way, okay? So it's just the same kind of major root inversion arpeggio, 7, 11, 9, 9, 9, 7, 12. All right, so I'm going to put the flat 6 in there right there. I'm not going to write the flat because it's just extra drawing here, but my flat 7, which is already what Mixolydian would have there. Then my 2, so it's kind of like Phrygian dominant, but with that half step on the second raised back up. So it's very major sounding until it suddenly isn't. So I have the 4, it's very major. All of a sudden, right here, 5, 6, 7, and 1, not very major anymore. So that's sort of where the rest of the scale kind of is, okay? And I'm thinking that this 2 here, it might be a better thing to just hit it on that string. So there's no right answers, you know. It's find the paths that there are and see what your hands want to do, okay? So I've got this. right? So you can kind of play with, I'm kind of dealing with, I'm going to just switch colors on you real quick here and go to like blue, a little lighter blue, like that. And so I'm kind of just dealing with the arpeggio, with the, I'm adding the 9, going straight up here, omitting most of those other notes, and kind of just dealing with everything here on the first string, right? Mike, hey, thank you, man. I'm glad you were able to make it out tonight. You also have a great night and weekend and week. So here's my 1, 2, 3, 5, root, third. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. All right, so that one, you know, I don't really need that note to be down there. It's actually almost lost a little bit in the sound of it because it's sort of so low in the range, and it's also so early in the melody. So I feel like those higher notes really kind of carry out and stick in the listener's ear a little bit more. So one thing I like to do sometimes is I'm going to add the 9 still in there, right? It's still going to make it this kind of like an add 9. Might do that, but I'll do regular arpeggio, regular triad, root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, 5th, root 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, slide to the root, tap. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it should be triplets all the way. So yeah, I always look for basically whatever the total number is, minus 1 times 2. That's the total phrase length. I think I've talked about that before, but basically that's if you want a looping ascending descending pattern of the same notes up and down, that's how the formula kind of works out. If it's 10 notes, subtract 1, then it's 9, and then it's 9 times 2. So it'll actually be 18 in all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Start over. Right. I might use it somewhere, I don't know, you know. Not against it, I don't hate it. You know, it's an interesting sound. It is weird how these kinds of things can really change the flavor by, you know. That should actually be the same phrase length, by the way. I added the 9 in. I just did it in a different octave. 2 octaves off, but so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Right? So by having that 9 down there, after I've had a little bit of time to get the listener reaccustomed to just the regular triad, it's interesting. It fits in a little bit better, I think, by having the 9 in one octave and having the 6, 7, and, you know, add 6 and 7 into there in a different octave. It's like 2 separate melodies going on. In a way, it kind of has that effect. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to illustrate that kind of thing and show also how you can kind of use like entire sections of scales like that. So I highly recommend, and this is actually sort of the full epitome of the arpeggio framework right there. Like, where are the rest of the scale tones around my arpeggio? And these major and minor arpeggios are most of what we tend to play a lot of times. So finding where these might happen in a more exotic, interesting place within a scale, even just adding 1 extra note can make a big, big difference. So think this through as you do it, and, you know, put it to work in your own music. Up at the top of the page, very small, don't forget you also have the total artist development system. So if the stuff we're talking about tonight is the kind of thing that you want to do and also go on to actually use it and make your own music with it, record, release it yourself and everything like that, maybe you should set up a free talk with me. It's, you know, it's very easy, and if, you know, there's no obligation to do anything, but if you're looking to start making and recording and releasing your own music and want to push your playing as far as it could possibly go, along with whatever theory knowledge is required for that to be able to be possible, then set up a free consultation with me, Go to ShredMentor.com, fill out the form, pick the time that works best for you. Let's talk, because there's only so much I can really cover in an hour, and I'll be honest, there's really no effort in these live streams for me to tie them together from one episode to the next, unless I just had more I wanted to say one week and I know I couldn't fit it in. So this is entertainment, a cool hangout. You can always come here and you always learn something, but whether it connects to anything else, probably not, unless you've been watching for all 68 episodes or so. There's not really, like I said, there's no effort for me to connect these together, because it's just sort of a taste of what you can get at ShredMentor. But if you're goal oriented and you have something specific you're trying to do, go over to ShredMentor, book that free consultation. Let's talk about what you're trying to do, and I'll tell you what I can offer you, and we'll see if the Total Arts Development System is right for you, because this is something that goes far beyond guitar lessons. I've been doing guitar lessons for a long time, but really it just barely scratches the surface of what I'm really doing. I'm trying to prepare you for a music career. Even if you don't want to do it for money, being able to put your stamp on your kind of music and make your own thing, I can't stress to you how rewarding it really is. So if that's something that you've always wanted to do, then I'll just remind you, we're not getting any extra. Oh, we're not in that screen. Yeah, that. I made it happen. Yeah, time is your most valuable asset. We don't really know when we're going to be checking out, so let's not waste any of the time that you have. Sorry to get all morbid on you, but seriously, you don't really know how much time you have left. So let's make the most of what time you do have left, and make it happen. So ShredMentor.com is the place to be. You also get full access to guitar practice tools as part of being my student, no matter what you do. So if this is the kind of stuff that you want to do more of in your playing and be able to construct really good, meaningful, powerful solos and full songs for that matter, then this is the place to be. So anyway, with that, I will leave you for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I love having you guys there, and I hope that you found this stuff pretty useful. And yeah, I guess that's it for this week. So thank you very much, and